Hi boys and girls, welcome back to another week of STEAM lessons. This week we're going to be talking all about light and shadows. Before we get into what light and shadows really are, we're going to read this book called My Shadow.
My Shadow by Robert Louis Stevenson, illustrated by Sarah Sanchez. I have a little shadow that goes in and out with me, and what could be the use of him is more than I can see. He is very, very like me from the heels up to the head, and I see him jump before me when I jump into my bed. The funniest thing about him is the way he likes to grow. Not at all like proper children, which is always very slow. For he sometimes shoots up taller like a bouncy rubber ball. And he sometimes gets so little that there's none of him at all. He hasn't got a notion of how children ought to play and can only make a fool of me in every sort of way. He stays so close beside me, he's a coward, you can see. I'm too brave to stick to Mommy as that shadow sticks to me. One morning, very early, before the sun was up, I rose and found the shining dew on every buttercup. But my lazy little shadow, like a naughty sleepyhead, had stayed at home behind me and was fast asleep in bed.
So in this book, we read all about the different things that shadows can do and the funny ways that they can move and change really quickly. So shadows, we know, are not an actual being that goes around with us. They are just a reflection of what is in front of the light. So light is just a type of energy. So a lot of times when we see shadows, we see them outside, and it's because something is blocking the light and making a shadow on the ground. So we're going to do some of the things that we saw in this book using a groundhog. So you might have heard of a special kind of funny little holiday called Groundhog's Day, where a groundhog pops his head out of the ground and he looks for a shadow and tells us if there's going to be more winter or spring. So the reason he's looking for his shadow is because he's looking to see if the sun is out that day. So we have a little prop here. It's just a cutout of the groundhog on a cup. And then I have a piece of paper behind it and I have a flashlight. So I'm going to turn my flashlight on and you can see that it makes a light on the table. And when I put it in front of the groundhog, it makes a shadow behind him. What I'm going to do is I'm going to move the flashlight around and I want you to watch the groundhog's shadow. So when I come way up to the top, see how the shadow almost disappears? And then when I bring my flashlight down and the light down, his shadow grows. If I move the flashlight around, I can kind of make it look like he's dancing. And I can even get a shadow that would be good enough for me to trace. So I'm going to try and do that here while I hold my flashlight. So I'm going to hold it really still and I'm just going to very gently trace around my groundhog. And now I want you to look. And you can see there are some similarities in the shape, but it's not exactly the same. If I move the light a little bit, the shape would be completely different. So wherever the light is coming from is really making a big difference on what the shadow shape is. So I'm going to do another one. I'm going to put my cup in the exact same spot. And then I'm going to try and make my shadow really different. So you can see my second shadow is going a completely different direction and it looks even less like my original shape. That's because the light was coming from a different angle. Your challenge this week is to trace an object and make two different shadow outlines. So I have two different ways that you could do this. You could either make a stand and put an object on the top like I did. It doesn't have to be a groundhog, it could be anything you want. And use a light like a flashlight or a light from a phone and make a shadow and try and make two different tracing outlines like I did. The other option is to go outside on a sunny day with some chalk. So you'll need someone to help you. And then you're going to stand really still and I want you to mark exactly where you're standing and have someone trace your shadow. Then later in the day, I want you to stand on that exact same spot and have someone trace your shadow again and see how they look different. I want you to think about why your shadow might have changed or moved at a different time of day. You can take pictures of those projects or send videos to your teacher and she will send them to me, and I will see you next time.